Hello, everyone. Ben Briggs here, and welcome to the second episode of the Better Digital Marketing Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about SEO, everybody's favorite organic search, free clicks from Google, free Google traffic. It just does not get any better than that. So what do we have to do, and how much money do we have to spend to get all this free Google traffic? So basically, when it comes to SEO, there's really kind of three major categories of things that you have to do if you want to rank for a keyword that's going to bring in traffic. Now, one important consideration is the keyword that you're thinking about. Is it a branded query or is it a non-branded query? I'm gonna skip over that. Just kind of assume that you guys know the difference between a branded and a non-branded query at this point, and I'll make a video about that some other time. But for now, the three major categories of things that you need to think about if you want to rank on Google, on the first page, get some of those sweet free Google clicks. Our content is your number one thing you got to think about. The actual content that's going to be on your website, whether that's images, video, text, all that good stuff, usually text. And then links. So getting other websites to link to your website, there's a number of different ways that you can go about that. And then technical. So these are kind of the nuts and bolts coding type things, communicating with robots, making sure that your website's accessible and all that good stuff. And so what we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit about each one of these categories, the content, the links, and the technical SEO, to try to kind of help give a broad overview of what is involved with getting a website to rank on Google and to pull in that free Google traffic. So first of all, content. Now, this almost probably seems so obvious that it doesn't need to be said, but if you want to rank for keyword X, you have to have content about keyword X. If you want to rank for blue widgets, you got to have content on your site about blue widgets. Now, this content does need to live in some very specific parts of the website. For one, if you put the keyword that you want to rank for in your title tag, then that's going to send a signal to the search engines that this page of your website is relevant for that keyword, and that's going to help you rank for that keyword. You can also put your keyword in H tags. This is becoming less important, and it's getting more and more complicated the way that Google actually evaluates, where what lives in your site, how important that is. But H tags, bold text, all that good stuff. Having the keywords that you want to rank for on the page, and then also having it in a format that's actually human readable. Google's gotten better and better at detecting just spam content, people who are just repeatedly writing the same keyword over and over and over on their page. I mean, obviously that fell out of favor 10 years ago, and has continued to get more and more difficult for people who want to do article spinning and these sorts of things to try to produce content that's basically the question that you probably want to answer when you're looking at the content you've created, when you're hoping to rank for any given keyword, is how much better is this piece of content that I just produced than the content that's currently sitting there for that query. So let's say that you wanted to rank for Portland real estate. You wanted to, you're a real estate agency in Portland, Oregon. You want to get your website to show up on the first page when people are searching for Portland real estate. So the first question that you need to ask is, what content is already there? Who's already produced content? I mean, you got your Zillows, your Realtor.coms, your all the different major aggregators, and then you've also got your other local competitors who are all producing content because they want to show up on Google and get that traffic. So when you look at the content that's already there, the mistake that a lot of people make is they'll say, okay, well, I need to produce content that's at least almost as good or that's a little bit better. than the content that's already there. The content that I'm going to produce is going to be a little bit better than what's already there, and then that's going to allow me to show up, right? That is not a good approach. It pretty much always fails. Your content, the idea, and Rand Fishkin talks about this in a presentation he gives called 10x content. You're really your target, your goal when you're thinking about producing content in order to rank for any particular keyword should be that my content is going to be 10 times better than the content that's already there. My content is going to be so much better than the content that's already there. And if you look at a keyword and you look at the content that's already there, and you think about it for a minute, you sit there and you go, okay, well, is it possible to produce? Is this the best content that is possible to produce about this particular keyword? Now, if the content that's already there, if the answer to that question is yes, if the content that's already there for that query is really, really, really good, and you can't, as somebody who's in the industry, somebody who's selling these services, you can't think of a way to make it a lot better, then maybe you should think about marketing in other ways. Because if your content's not a lot better than what's already there, it's going to be very, very difficult to convince people to link to it or promote it, let alone to just have that happen organically. And we'll talk about kind of organic links, link outreach, stuff like that in a little bit. But in any case, your content needs to be high quality, human readable. It needs to be actually useful to the customer. You can't just write the keywords and have some unique content that's basically exactly the same as everything that's already there for that keyword. Your content needs to be a lot better. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to invest the time and money into creating content that's much better than the content that's already there for the keyword that you want to rank for, then just don't do it. Just buy the pay-per-click ads. Figure out your marketing on Facebook. Go to a business networking group. Do whatever else it is that you do to generate business, and just realize that if it's not worth the investment in the content to produce content that's way better than what's already there for that keyword that you want to rank for, then you're not going to be successful. You're just not going to rank for that query unless you're willing to produce the content that's required to be there. Now, what makes content better than what's already there? It could be a visual presentation. If there's content that's already there, but it's very, very text heavy, but it's well written, but it's very text heavy. Maybe you could find a way to kind of translate that content in a way that's more visual, because visual persuasion is much stronger than written persuasion. So convincing customers that your content's useful, one way would be to translate content that's similar to what's already ranking for keyword X into a way that's more visual. Adding video. Just having a video on your page is going to make whatever page that is of your website seem more valuable to Google. Google knows that people like video. It'll engage the users. Google just wants, when Google's thinking about the organic results and what to show in the organic results, Google's not thinking about getting you as a business owner a good result in terms of having produced that content. The only thing that Google cares about is that the user who did the search finds the content to be really, really relevant, really useful. That way the customer will be satisfied. The customer will like Google, trust Google, use Google, tell other people to use Google. And that's good for the long-term health of Google. And Google's known that for a really long time, and they've been executing against that objective and finding a lot of different ways to evaluate content at scale in order to achieve that. So that's one of the ways that you can translate the existing content into a video, translate it into a more visual form, And that's one of the tactics that you could use to make the content that you're going to produce better than the content that's already there. So links. Links are super, super important if you want to rank, if it's at all competitive. Now, if you're the only person on the planet who wants to sell, maybe you're selling, I don't know, penguin top hats, right? You got these awesome penguin top hats, and you're the only one selling them. Well, pretty much all you'll have to do is, put the content on your site, put the product there, write a halfway decent description. You're going to show up. You're going to be the only one selling, penguin top hats. So you won't even really need that many links. All like, 4 people who've ever searched for penguin top hats will find you. Everything's great. Everything's all hunky dory. Now, if you do have competitors, and you pretty much all do, then you're going to need links. Now links. The reason why links are important. This is really the fundamental innovation at Google that Google made, way back in the day. The reason why Google is a better search engine than Bing is because of the way that Google evaluates the link profile and assigns domain authority, and uses these signals that are beyond just the first party signals, the direct signals from your website, which is the content of your website, and also the technical. We'll get to that in a bit, but the way that the internet relates to your site. So for instance, if you're a plumber and you're a good plumber in your local area, then there are going to be other websites in your area that are going to be linking to you. Maybe it's the local chamber of commerce. Maybe you sponsored a little league team, and they put a Bill's Plumbing banner on the little league website linked back to you, right? All of those kinds of factors, those can be good ways to build links. And it used to be that any link that was paid for in any way, so like if you sponsored the local little league team, technically they were supposed to put rel equals no follow on that link. Now a no follow link, as opposed to a do follow link, is supposed to be, and it was for a long time, a message to Google that said, hey Google, don't count this as passing authority. This isn't an editorially given link. This is a link that was paid for. Social media, all of your Facebooks and LinkedIn's and Twitters and Reddits and all that, no follow the links by default. Pretty much all the links that you're getting from social media have a no follow on them. Now, for years and years and years, SEOs, all of us, we had a heavy bias towards do follow links, because do follow links could pass PageRank, and then that would help us rank better. So we were always chasing after those do follow links. And in a lot of cases, like directories that you might be in, for instance, my business is in clutch.co. We're in UpCity, a couple other ones. The free profile that you get from those guys comes with a no follow link, but if you upgrade to a premium membership, then you can get a do follow link, right? And that's very common across all kinds of industries. The do follow link is one thing that that people are kind of holding up as, hey, here's some extra benefit that we can give you, if you become a premium member or what have you. So but that's recently changed. The no follow versus do follow. Google now, and I've been saying this for years, that there's no way that the Google algorithm can be so much better than the Bing or the Yahoos. The Google organic results are so much better for a reason, and the reason is that Google is taking into account more signals and doing a better job of evaluating those signals to rank content. And this is what links are all about. The links that you're getting from high quality sources, and any organically gotten links are even more valuable. But any links that you're getting from third party sources, including social media, Google's evaluating that and taking that into account when it's ranking websites. So So if you have better content than the other guy and you've got more links, then obviously you're going to rank better. There's a lot of different ways to get links. We just kind of touched on a little bit directories. You can have directories that are relevant to a specific business, wide web directories. Back in the day we had DMOZ, Best of the Web, still out there, but probably not worth the price anymore. There's a lot of web directories, that used to be a big part of it, a big part of the link building strategy. It's definitely decreased a lot in value, over the last 10 years, but there's still some value in some directories, especially if it's a directory where you're actually going to get some traffic from it. And a way that you can tell if you're likely to get traffic from a directory is search a keyword that you want to rank for. And if that directory already ranks for it, then you're doing what's called like barnacle SEO, right? So you're putting your business onto that directory. So at least you can soak up some portion of the traffic that directory is already generating. And then if that directory also links back to your site, that's a signal to Google, hey, this site is relevant for this keyword. That'll help you rank a little bit better. Now, there's manual outreach. You can send 100 emails a day. You can, email, have a series where you're requesting the link 3 times. You can do this manual outreach to try to get different websites to link to you. It's a valid tactic. It can produce some links. If that's something that you want to do, there are fairly efficient ways to do it. It's not a tactic that I use, but manual outreach, is an option. You've got your guest posting and your press releases where you're producing a piece of usually just text content, and you are putting that out on a press release directory. Maybe you get an anchor text link where you can actually have your keyword that you want to rank for as the text of the link that links back to your site. That's going to be a little bit better than a link that just says click here, or announcement, or whatever other anchor text there might be. If you can get a keyword rich anchor text link, those still have some value in 2019. They used to be the holy grail back in the day, 8-9 years ago. And anchor text links were kind of the bee's knees. They were pretty awesome. If you wanted to rank for something, you get a couple anchor text links and you're good to go. But that's changed a bit, and you do want to be careful with keyword rich anchor text links. If all of your links are keyword rich anchor text links, then Google algorithm can see that as being a little bit unnatural or a little bit manipulated, and it's possible that you'll even get a penalty if you build too many of those, especially if it's the exact same keyword every time. So mixing up your anchor text links a little bit, make sure you're getting some natural stuff in there where you do have some click here's or just some URL, myurl.com. You don't want all of your links to be keyword rich anchor text links, but some of your links definitely should be, especially if you're targeting any sort of a competitive keyword. Now, the statement that I'm going to make is going to be a little bit controversial about links, and it has been for years, but maybe it's becoming less controversial as we have. And I'll link to this in the video description. I'll link to the announcement that Google made. It's just seemed unreasonable to me for a very long time that Google would ignore how many people on Facebook are linking to website X, how many people on Twitter are linking to Facebook X, or how many people on Twitter are linking to this website. It seemed a little bit silly to me to imagine that that Google would completely ignore that. Given Google's history of being pretty progressive as far as finding new ways to rank websites, finding new ways to identify links. It seemed pretty silly to me to say, well, those links are no follow, so there's no way that Google's using Twitter to figure out which websites are better. It just didn't make any sense. And now, a couple of days ago, maybe a week and a half ago, we had Google announce that the rel equals no follow is just a hint. It's one of the signals that they use when evaluating the quality of links. So basically, they admitted that there could be some cases where a no-follow link would actually pass PageRank. So that means those social media links all of a sudden are potentially counting when it comes to ranking for a particular keyword. Now, this is mostly conjecture on my part, but I would say that if you've got a Twitter post and it has the keyword that you want to rank for and then a link to your website all within that same Twitter post, the Google robot, the Google system, the algorithm, the machine learning has gotten sophisticated enough to be able to understand that keyword in the Twitter post followed by a link to your website or particular page means that your site is relevant for those words that were in that post. So, I mean, this does kind of open up the door a little bit to manipulation, and honestly, the desire by the social media platforms, the Facebooks and the Twitters, to avoid having a massive amount of spam, which they get a massive amount of spam anyway. But if Google admitted, hey, if you get links to your website from a Twitter post that includes the keyword, then that's going to help your website rank better. The result of that would be people trying to manipulate it. Would be people making sock puppet accounts on Twitter so they can link back to their own websites, and there's some of that still. There's some of that has been going on anyway, because there are people like me out there who assumed that these kinds of Twitter links would be valuable in terms of providing some ranking benefit, and went ahead and executed against that strategy, even though Google's been telling us that these links definitely don't count. But so the takeaway from this whole thing, as far as the rel equals no follow and the social media links, is that it's a good idea to be doing some stuff on social media if you want to rank better in SEO. You want to get people talking about your website on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Depending on what's relevant for you. Maybe if you're a restaurant, then Yelp is probably relevant. You want people talking about your business there, posting links to it, posting links to your menu. And just like your Yelp profile is going to be a no follow link, but there's no question that if you have 748 reviews for your restaurant on Yelp, and then you've got a link with all this user generated content, that's a factor that Google's using to rank websites. There's no question that some of that is going on. I guess the moral of the story is don't devalue a link necessarily just because it's a no follow. It's good to also get do follows, no question, kind of the more old school stuff, especially if you can get, just local partners, business owners you're friends with, link into each other. That's still a good idea. There used to be a big thing about a reciprocal link penalty because for a long time there was a bunch of manipulation going on where people would just set up pages on their site where everybody could just link to everybody else, and it all became a bunch of robots doing a bunch of linking back and forth to each other. And so for a period of time, there was a situation where reciprocal links could potentially get you in a bunch of trouble. Realistically, in more modern times, last couple of years, the worst thing a reciprocal link is going to do for you is just not get counted as a benefit. It's not very likely that you're going to get a significant ranking penalty for having a reciprocal link where you link somebody and they link back to you. And if you do actually have a real life relationship with this business, if your business is related, if you're a supplier, if you're a vendor, if you have some kind of reason why you should be linking back and forth to each other, you might as well link back and forth to each other. If you've both got good websites, then you're both going to benefit from having the link. And it can also be a content idea. It can be, hey, we're going to talk about our relationship with this vendor, and then we're going to provide a link to that vendor site. They're going to do the same thing for us, and everybody benefits from that kind of a link. I do want to touch on a little bit paid linking, buying links, private backlink networks, the PBNs. A lot of people are real excited about. all the link buying stuff, I mean, there's no question that it does work, you know, sometimes until you get burned. Like there's no question that the people on the, you know, really bleeding edge of figuring out, you know, how can I cheat? How can I buy links? How can I buy expired domains that have link profiles and then use them to give links to my own websites or my friends' websites? I mean, that stuff goes on. It gets you burned all the time though. So to me, the cost of having to rebuild, to get a new domain, rebuild the content, change the content, because it can't be exactly the same. If I take the exact content from my website that Google just nuked, and then I move it to a new domain, that's not going to trick Google anymore. Google's a little more sophisticated than that. And Google is desperately, they're always desperately trying to nuke everybody who is doing, you know, these really bad, well, in Google's opinion, bad tactics of trying to use purchased links to try to build authority for their site, to build links for their site, so they can rank better. The kind of argument from Google is that this type of behavior generally moves websites to the top that don't have the best content, that don't have the best user experience. You know, it's purely commercial manipulation because people are trying to move their product up to the front of the line. And that doesn't create the best experience for Google users. So, you know, all the way back in the Matt Cutts days, and Google still has a giant web spam team that is going out there and trying to nuke these websites, trying to defeat these tactics, trying to make it very, very difficult to game the algorithm with private backlink networks, bot links, all that kind of stuff. It's going to make it very likely that if you engage in these kinds of tactics that you're going to get burned. So I don't do it. You can do it if you want, but you should, if you're going to do it, you know, you better be real excited about building new websites all the time, because from time to time you're going to get nuked. You're going to have to completely start over. So that's kind of the cost. I mean, there is a benefit. You can get more ranking results in a shorter period of time if you engage in some of these tactics, unless you engage in the stuff that's already completely nuked. But the guys, these are all bad actors, right? These guys in the link buying and the private backlink networks, these guys are basically bad actors. You know, they're basically trying to cheat the system, and Google doesn't like them. So, but there's no reason why if somebody's willing to cheat, somebody's willing to manipulate, someone's willing to do these sorts of things, you know, why would they stop selling the service once Google has removed all the benefit from it? They can still pretend like there's benefit. They'll still tell you there's benefit. They'll still sell you the service. Just because they're selling the service doesn't mean it even works. So you need to be really, really sophisticated in the way you evaluate what you buy. You know, if you're going to engage in this type of tactics to get links, in my opinion, it's not worth it. Manual outreach is okay. You can do, you know, guest posting is, you know, it's not as good as it used to be. It's been devalued significantly. Press releases can work if they're legit, if you're actually announcing something. If you do have to spend some money, you know, you have to on the distribution, you have to get a halfway decent distribution. And then you have to be strategic when you're doing the press releases. I mean, but those sorts of things can work. And then building up an actual social media presence. But I would say the overarching thing, you know, in 2019, when you're thinking about building links, you should be thinking about building links that are actually going to have benefit from the traffic that they're bringing in. Google's gotten pretty good at evaluating whether you're building a link just for the link's sake and then devaluing that when you do. Whereas if you're building the link because this is actually a place where it makes sense for people to have a link to your website, and people are going to click that link and come to your website, which you are telling Google about if you have Google Analytics on your site, and pretty much everybody does. So these are the kinds of more sophisticated decisions that I believe Google's making. when it comes to links. And so when you're thinking about building links, you need to think about, these sorts of issues, and really try to build those high quality links that are actually going to also deliver value to your site. Because if you're going to spend the time and effort to build a link, it'd be nice to actually just get some traffic through that link. And that's not as easy as just spamming out a million links or buying into a private backlink network. But the upside is long term, and it is not going to get you burned. You're not, if you build links in this way, you're going to have a whole lot. It doesn't make it impossible that you're going to have a problem. You can get a manual action or an algorithmic penalty. I mean, these sorts of things happen, and sometimes they're by mistake, but you'll have a lot lower probability of having those types of problems. So that's links. I think I ranted about links long enough. Let's talk about technical SEO. So technical search engine optimization should really be kind of called technical website optimization. One major element is mobile friendliness. So does your website work well on mobile? And some of the people who've been on the internet, who had businesses on the internet for a really long time, they'll say, hey, my customers use desktop. Yeah, that, like, some of them still do. I use desktop, but I'm not just an average customer. I'm a little more tech savvy than that. And I spend a lot more time in front of a machine. I have multiple desktop computers in my house. Mobile, most consumers, especially if you're B2C, if you're B2B, you can probably still kind of focus on desktop and get away with that for the most part. But even in B2B, a lot of your customers are on a mobile device, and making sure that your website is accessible, attractive, easy to use, loads fast, even if it's going through 3G or 4G, maybe a slow Wi-Fi connection on somebody's phone. Getting the website to load fast and to work well on mobile is critically important. And basically the entire index, Google's moved the entire search index to mobile first. So if you have a great desktop experience and your website's super fast on desktop, but your mobile experience doesn't have those same attributes, it's not as fast. It doesn't. It's not as easy to use on mobile. You're getting a penalty for that. You're getting a penalty for that right now in October of 2019. You're being hurt by the fact that your website doesn't work as well on mobile. So that's the number one thing. That is the number one thing. It's a bigger attribute than all this other stuff we're going to talk about, is speed and mobile friendliness. When it comes to technical SEO, that's the most important thing: speed and mobile friendliness. Now, I'm going to put the title and meta tags in the technical bucket. They're not that technical, and there's an argument for it. There's an argument for title and meta tags being placed on the content side, but basically your title tag is usually what's going to show up as a blue link on the search result page when you show up on the search engine results page, the SERP. Your title tag is generally going to be the blue link that people are going to click on. If you want page X to rank for keyword X, then if you want page X to rank for keyword Y, then you want keyword Y to be included within the first 65 characters of your title tag. The first 65 characters are really what Google reads. It may or may not be ignoring title tags that are a little bit longer than that. At this point, there's a little bit of dispute between different people about exactly how long a title tag can be. My kind of standard operating procedure is to take those first 65 characters, use those as view those as the most important part of the title tag, and put the keywords that I want to rank for in that part of the title tag, those first 65 characters. And then if I want to put stuff like my brand name, or if I just want to put extra words there, that's fine. It's not going to have a big negative impact, but it's also not going to probably have much, if anything, of a positive impact. As far as meta tags, meta keywords is completely dead. It's been dead for a long time. Put a fork in it. There's no reason to write a meta keywords tag, really. maybe there's some old crappy search engines that still pay attention. But the meta keywords tag, don't worry about it. Don't use it. Most of the other meta tags, are used for things that aren't related to improving your organic search engine ranking. The one meta tag that does kind of matter is the meta description. The meta description can be used as the black text that appears below your blue link of your title tag on the search engine results page. So the meta description is not accounted for. Is not a ranking signal. It will not help your website show up better for any particular query, but it is the black text that'll appear with your link. It can be. Google can also auto-generate this now. This is about the last 18 months to 2 years. Google has updated to where it can, instead of your meta description, it can use content from your site to create its own description. So that might happen, particularly if your meta description isn't very good. Google will do this, for any particular page. So when you're crafting the meta description, what you're really trying to do, I think about it a lot like I think about pay-per-click ad copy. The meta description, should give users an idea about what the page is about and a reason why they should come check it out. So the meta description is that part of your website that you're just trying to get people to click on it. You're just trying to get people to get a basic understanding of what the page is about, what they're going to get if they click, and give them a good reason to click. So that's your meta description tag. Now, when it comes to page speed, there's a bunch of stuff that you get into. And there are a couple tools that I use pretty much all the time when I'm thinking about page speed. One of them is Google PageSpeed Insights. Just Google PageSpeed Insights. You'll go to a little tool. You can put your website in there. You can put your competitor's website in there. You can put whatever website in there you want. You put Amazon in there to see how good the big boys are. And you put your website in there, and it gives you a bunch of information about the speed of your site, how fast it is. It'll tell you how your servers look performing. It'll tell you, what do you have opportunity to improve the formatting of your image, improve the compression of your images. Is your JavaScript making your website take a long time to load? Is there anything that you can do to optimize and compress that? So the PageSpeed Insights, and then also Pingdom is a pretty good one. It'll give you a lot of the same information, but also a little bit of a different look at some of the information. So you can look at that Google PageSpeed Insights report, and if you understand what it's talking about, and you know how to do that stuff, it'll give you a bunch of suggestions. It'll show you, areas of red that are bad, that are slow, that are hurting your performance. You can address those. If you don't understand it, then you can hire a developer who does understand it, and they can implement that stuff for you. You can only go so far. Generally, if your page is, if you're getting a score that's as good or better than the page speed score of the competitors who are already showing up for the queries that you want to show up for, you want to be at least as good. You got to be as good. If you're a lot slower than the competing sites, if your page is a lot slower, even if your content's better, you're still not going to be able to beat them for ranking and to get those top spots on the search engine results page. So when you're looking at a big part of your technical SEO is your page speed, you can use that PageSpeed Insights report to optimize your content, and you can also use the Pingdom can help. Another thing, it's a smaller factor just because it's not it doesn't have as big of an impact. You really can't have as big of an impact as optimizing the content that actually shows up on your page, optimizing the way that your content's presented and the compression of your content, your JavaScript and all that good stuff. But your server response time, once you've done all this other stuff and once you've got a halfway decent score, then you can look at, how fast is my server? What's my server response time? And then really the only way to impact that is to, if it's slow, if you've got a slow server response time, if it's shown in the red, contact your web host and say, hey, is there some kind of web hosting plan, that I can get on that'll reduce this with you guys? And you can also shop around for other web hosts. I mean, some web hosts are faster than others. It depends on the infrastructure and the cloud delivery. A cloud delivery network is for your images in particular. But a lot of web hosts are kind of putting all the content in the cloud now. That can kind of reduce the latency and the amount of distance that the data has to travel to get between the server that you're hosting it on and the actual customer, or wherever Google's page speed test is happening. So looking at your web hosting is kind of the last step. Or the first step. If you're building a brand new website, then yeah, get it hosted with a good host. It's going to have a fast server response time. But if you've already got a website up, I like to look at a lot of these other technical factors first, and then say, hey, if I changed web hosts, if I got a different web hosting plan, would that speed up my server response time and allow me to get just a little bit better page speed score? So that's about it. I mean, obviously, we could dive deeper on any of these specific contexts. If you've got questions about anything that we put about in this video, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at the Samurai DR on Twitter, or you can get in touch with me through my website, www.samurai.com. I hope this has been useful. It's kind of an overview of kind of at least my perspective on SEO. I think it's a pretty good one. I think if you followed the recommendations here, you could end up with a very competitive website in terms of generating organic search traffic. Here at the end, I want to mention that I'm overall bearish about SEO. I have been for a very long time. I did SEO for a living full time way back in the day, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I really focused on SEO. I did SEO for a living for a couple years. But I got out of that as a full-time gig. I really focused more on paid search. And I first transitioned over to paid search and paid social as the focus. For one, just because look at the search results page. I mean, if you look at the search results page from 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, look at the Google search results page, the amount of real estate that showed up above the fold that was non-paid, that was organic, that was that sweet free traffic. It was a whole lot bigger than it is now. Because if you think about it, 70–80% of the traffic for depending on what market, depending on what specific query, I mean maybe as low as 60, but still most of the traffic's mobile. Most of the traffic's been mobile for a couple of years, and there's basically no organic SEO real estate available on a mobile device above the fold. Above the fold, you're going to have ads, or you're going to have Google products, Google Shopping, Google My Business. The actual 10 blue links doesn't show up on a mobile device until you scroll quite a bit down. So the click share, the amount of traffic that goes to the Google organic listings is going down and down and down, and that trend is going to continue. I expect it to continue. I'd be shocked if Google decides, actually we don't want paid clicks. We don't want to generate revenue. We're a publicly traded company, and we've decided that we're going to give traffic away for free. I don't think that that's possible. So I would bet that the trend of even if you're number one, even if you're number three, in the Google organic, you're going to get less traffic next year than you did this year, and that's going to continue. So overall, I do advocate for doing some basic SEO stuff. You want to show up, for instance, for your brand number one. If you're not showing up number one for your brand, if your website doesn't load fast, if it's not usable on mobile, it's less about, for me, it's less about actually attracting non-branded Google traffic and getting the revenue that results from that. And it's more about just having a decent website, making sure that my customers aren't frustrated, at least being as good as my competitors. So if you want to do just a basic checklist to make sure that your website's functional, that it's easy to use, that you aren't frustrating your customers, definitely advocate for that. You should absolutely do that, even if you're a pretty small business. But when it comes to investing a ton of money in manual link outreach, a bunch of time and money in manual link outreach, doing creating a content for 700 keywords that are all pretty much exactly the same. Maybe it's different long tail keywords. Used to be we would produce content for a 5-word search, and then because we were the only page that had those 5 words, we would rank. It'd be pretty easy to rank for a long tail keyword with just a simple piece of content, a couple links pointing to it. That's more or less gone away because the algorithm has gotten away from exactly matching the text to the search, and more towards kind of trying to understand the overall intent, semantically relating different words. So that creates pages with a lot of authority, pages that have been determined to be high quality, can rank for a larger set of keywords that are related. Whereas back in the day, a very narrowly targeted page maybe would be able to dominate a long tail keyword. So overall, the opportunity to generate revenue from non-branded organic search it's gotten a lot smaller already, and it's going to continue to go down in the amount of profit that's available there. That's not to say there's no profit to be had there. And if you're already doing if you're doing a lot of the work that you already have to do, just because you want to generate traffic and revenue from particularly maybe a non-branded paid search, maybe you're putting together a really good content page, you're making sure it's conversion rate optimized, you're making sure that it's easy to use, that it loads fast, you're doing all of this stuff anyway just to generate revenue from non-branded pay-per-click. Then building a couple links, doing just a little bit of fundamental SEO stuff to try to try to rank a little bit better and get some of that free traffic, that can definitely be worthwhile. But again, I don't recommend looking at SEO as I wouldn't build a business around SEO, because it's going to continue to go down in terms of the bang for the buck that you get with the time and money that you invest in it. So I hope that was useful. Again, hit me up on Twitter if you've got questions. There's a piece of content you want to you want to see expanded on. If there's something that you heard about in this video that you want to know more about, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at the Samurai DR. You can also hit me up on my website if you need digital marketing services, particularly if you want pay-per-click management, paid social, conversion rate optimization, post-click optimization, lead nurturing, those kinds of things. Hit me up, schedule a call, and we can see if you'd be a good fit as a client. And if you'd like to be a guest on this podcast, let me know. I'm definitely open to doing interviews and discussion type formats on digital marketing related issues. So thanks everybody for listening to me rant about digital marketing, and I hope that this is going to help you do your digital marketing better.